Speaking of joke, Kevin Millar, Major League Baseball Network. What?
He's our buddy.
Let me try that again. Speaking of a joke, Kevin Millar, MLB Network analyst, he won a World Series with the Red Sox. He's on Intentional Talk all postseason long. MLB Network airs pre- and post-game coverage throughout October. How are you, buddy?
Danny, I'm doing good, buddy. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing great. Where do you want to start?
Well, I'll tell you right now, it was interesting. We do our predictions immediately, right? So immediately looking at these predictions, I'm 3 out of 4. I did pick the Marlins to win over the Phillies. Fighting Fish, played for them many years. I love what Schumacher's doing over there. I think they're a sneaky, underrated club. But I'll tell you right now, Wheeler, he could be the best postseason pitcher we got going right now. He has found his rhythm on the mound with a power type stuff and that sweeper and just learning how to pitch. He could be devastating in the postseason.
All right. Help me with this sweeper craze.
Yeah.
Okay. What is a sweeper and how different is it from a curveball?
So let's just talk about that. I'm glad you asked, because when I played, it was an uppercut. Now they call it launch angle, right? So it's a really smart way to act like we're really educated on all this stuff. Sweeper is in between a curveball. The curveball has a little hump. The slider has this downward action, and a sweeper is a little bit in between. So we can call that just that combination of the curveball slider that now we have a smart word called the sweeper.
Yeah, but we already had this. It was called the slurve. We had that before.
That's what you threw in high school.
Yes.
That was the hanging slurve. That's why you got a headset on right now, Danny. I remember you. We faced each other back in the day, I thought.
I would buckle your knees. And I had the Kershaw 12-6.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And what happened? Let me guess. You got hurt, and then all of a sudden the coach did, he kind of screwed you over, and you ended up having to go into announcing, or what happened?
No, I decided to take my talents to basketball and dominate there.
You do have a great jump shot. Do you sell the basketball court?
Oh, yeah.
I'm terrible.
Got the best man kick. Oh, by the way, I was watching the documentary on Mike Veeck.
Yes.
And have you seen the documentary that they did?
So I want to watch it with my family. I know exactly about it. We had Veeck on. He's one of my favorite people in the world. He is exactly everything you want as just energy and treat people with kindness and love. I'll tell you, I went back. They retired my jersey a couple summers ago. And 30 years ago, in 1993, I played for the St. Paul Saints as an undrafted player, went up there to the Northern League. And staff members are still there from the time I was there, 30 years, which tells you what, they treat you amazingly and they're first class. But yes, I'm excited to see Remembering a Saint, but I want to watch it with my family.
Yeah, it's really well done. Kevin Millar, MLB Network analyst. Give me the team that you think is in trouble right now.
The Brewers. I've loved what Craig Counsell's done up there. I think it's been magnificent, and he doesn't get enough credit for what he's done offensively. They've been a team that might be their little monkey wrench. They have enough to put together. Their starting pitching is great, but when you lose Brandon Woodruff, I think that's a big deal. Now you got a lot of pressure on, obviously, Corbin Burns and Peralta. So if you were to ask me one team a little in trouble, that would be them. Give me the team that's not in trouble at all. Once the Phillies. I mean, they are that group, right? They remind me of the 04 team, the 03 team that I played for the Red Sox. That team that just is scrappy. They got a couple superstars. Real Muto is my favorite player. I mean, he is just a ball player that kind of keeps that glue together. Castellanos, obviously, this year, settling down. It's hard. You sign a big deal. We see it all the time. You come in trying to do too much. And then when things settle down, he's the player that they've all wanted. And you've seen what he can do. Schwarber, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but he draws his walks. Yes, the strikeouts there, but he's got 50 home runs in that back pocket. And obviously Bryce Harper is all ball player. And Trey Turner, he is getting hot. When he's hot, this team's dangerous, and I think they're the team.
Okay, help me understand Kyle Schwarber. He does hit home runs. He gets on base. He's not a great player. He can't run. He strikes out, but he's extremely valuable. I still have to believe, Kevin, putting the ball in play is far more valuable than striking out 150 to 200 times.
I agree, and I think he's a much better hitter than he has been as far as hitter wise. I mean, he was coming up. I remember Theo Epstein loved him in the Cubs organization, in the minor leagues. And he said, this kid can hit. You're thinking a 300 hitter. The problem is, Danny, they teach hitting differently. And it bothers me. I'm with you. I hated striking out. I don't care if I popped up to the pitcher. But when you struck out, that pitcher got you. And I always tell you this, hitting is a mentality. You have to figure out and believe that you're the greatest player in the world from the on-deck circle, walking to that home plate. Facing Roger Clemens, think about it. Undrafted guy like myself, LA City Junior College, Lamar University to the Northern League. And now I've got a 7-time Cy Young Award winner on the mound that's 6'5", and he's God. You have to create an attitude hitting. And to me, it's a grind. They have so much information. They're so information based in their spin rate and the degrees of the curveball. And they have these machines that are $500,000 in the clubhouse that you can go in there and track the starting pitcher that day, basically coming out of that windup and seeing the degrees. It's too much, in my opinion. I think Kevin Long's one of the greatest hitting coaches in baseball. He's a hitting coach for the Philadelphia Phillies. But I think what they're asking Schwarber to do is hit homers and do your thing. So I think they're okay with the strikeouts. Yeah. Nobody's a perfect player. Nobody's the speed power combination. You get paid $300 to $500 million these days. Schwarber does exactly what he's paid to do, and that's to hit home runs, drive and runs, set the tone. And let me tell you, as a leadoff hitter, it is a unique scene. But because of the walks and the on-base percentage, do you care if he's singling? Do you care if he's got 48 singles and 55 home runs, if he's got over 300, 340 on base? So he does a little bit of everything other than the average.
When do you start to get nervous if you're an Angels fan with Shohei Otani?
Yeah, it's probably now. I mean, obviously the article comes out when he cleaned out his locker at the end of the season. He had the surgery. What a unique player. What a unicorn. We've never seen this, Danny. We've heard about Babe Ruth, but what he was able to do healthy, he throws 100 miles an hour with a split finger and he hits 45 to 50 home runs and he runs better than you think. He's a 6'4", if not 5 guy. And he's such a sweet guy. There's intangibles there. And then the marketing aspect of it. So sometimes the numbers don't make sense to guys like you and I. I mean, I know you're rich now because you stopped playing baseball. You went to basketball and turned into Dan Patrick. God bless you. My point being is that Shohei Otani, it'll be a unique contract. People ask me all the time, what did that cost him? I wouldn't even know where to start, because if you're paying guys $350 million as a position player, and you got aces like Garrett Cole that are at $300 million, well, does that number start with a 6? Now it might start with a 4. You still get them in June next year to offensive type scene like Bryce Harper, who DH or plays some first base, and you wait for that Tommy John to come back. You will have him back.
Well, where's he going to play?
He'll play in San Francisco. He'll play with the Dodgers. He'll play for the Red Sox, the Yankees, the big boys. In my opinion, I think there's a sleeper team, the Giants, and they got sneaky money. We'll see what happens. But you're only going to limit yourself to 5 teams that can afford that.
Yeah, because they took a run at Aaron Judge and Carlos Correa. Thankfully, they missed out on Correa, but I thought they had a real shot with Judge. So maybe they do spend that money to get him in there in San Francisco. I know you lost teammate Tim Wakefield passing away, and if you want to give the audience just your thoughts on that, then I have a question about the knuckleball pitcher.
Yeah, I'll tell you this right now, and I know this was hard. I was boarding a plane in Los Angeles, was visiting my uncle Cal, who's having a rough time with cancer. Ironically, I get on a plane Sunday morning, was called by the Red Sox, Miss Pam, and she told me to hear the news as I was boarding, and she said we lost Tim. And the reason why, like this white ghost went over my face, I couldn't believe it. Stacy Wakefield, his wife, a remarkable Bostonian, tough as nails, one of my favorite wives I've ever played with. She was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer a year ago. She's battling for her life. Tim Wakefield and I played in the Tahoe event. He's healthy. He's a golfer. He's us. He's a wonderful human being. He treated everybody kind, always wanted to do right, came up as a position player with the Pirates, and then learned the knuckleball and turned into the most unbelievable knuckleball pitcher this game's seen for many years. But it was devastating. Came in with a headache about a month ago. Got an MRI, had cancer, brain tumor. 2 days later, they had the surgery. And then he had to wait a month to start chemo. Was starting it this week. And Sunday, had a seizure. They rushed him to the hospital. He didn't make it. And I'll tell you, it's a tough situation, Dan, because as your work, whether it's a team, business, you're a family. And we celebrated a championship, the first one in 86 years. I was very close to Tim and his wife and his kids, Brianna, who's a senior in high school. And I think about her battling his son, Trevor. He's an autistic 19-year-old boy. But Brianna's sitting here as a senior in high school. Mom gets diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, battling, and then dad randomly in a month span passes. Devastating news, brutal for the family of baseball, brutal for personally, and just keep your prayers high and higher as high as you can go for this family, Danny, because this was a great man that we lost at way too young of an age at 57 years old.
It's a tough segue after something that was put so beautifully. I did want to ask you about how you can prepare for the knuckleball. Do they have pitching machines? When we were in Scottsdale, the Giants spring training site, Gabe Kapler said that they could recreate the curveball that Kershaw has, like the pitching machine can. Can these pitching machines recreate a knuckleball?
No, and I loved it at first base. We'd play the Yankees, and you'd see Posada and these guys. They're changing their stances. They're open. They're low. Listen, I didn't get a chance to face Tim till I went to the Orioles. So I played with him for 3 years with the Red Sox. I heard all the lingo at first base. Guys are just going crazy. I took it as a way as this. The old saying, right, is if it's high, let it fly. If it's low, let it go. The amazing part about a knuckleball is that you got to take it for fun. You got to get in your softball stance. You got to leg kick straight up. And I try to hit a home run every time. There's no other way. You can't stay inside the baseball. You can't sit here and try to work your swing, because what happens is that one pitch, it starts out like the old Bugs Bunny. It just stays, and then it drops off the table right before home plate to the outside corner. It might stay and rise if it catches the right wind and kind of finish above your belt buckle. It might stay flat. The one thing about Tim Wakefield's knuckleball is he can control this thing. He would throw between 58 and 68. He can throw a little harder with 2 strikes. It's the most amazing pitch in baseball. It's, you're spacing 95 to 100. I always thought it was like a day off. Regardless if you're going to dribble it, you're going to look funny, you're going to pop up. But if you got one that didn't move, it was like a batting practice pitch that you threw in high school, Danny.
Good to visit with you as always. And thank you for the words, Tim Wakefield, your former teammate.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Kevin Millar. You can see him on Intentional Talk on MLB. All postseason long. Airs pre- and post-game coverage throughout October.